Hi VC. Today I'd like to show albums by two groups that are in my collection. Both groups are from California and started out in the late 60s. The first group is Cold Blood with lead singer Lydia Pence, and that's a group that with a great horn section. The music is can be sort of described as funk, R&B, rock, gospel. Very high energy. This album was released in 1969 on the San Francisco label. Their second album, Sisyphus, released in 1970. Title, Sisyphus, comes from Greek mythology. Sisyphus was a king who ticked off the gods, and as a result he was forced to roll a stone uphill for all eternity. And you sort of get that in the cover as various shots of an individual. Looks like they're rolling something up a hill. Third album, First Taste of Sin, released in 1972. On this album, the core group consists of 9 musicians, and there are 9 additional musicians helping out. One of the names that stood out was Coke, let me just get this right here, Coke Escovedo, who I remember from Santana 3, and of course he went on to make I think 3 albums of his own as well, a percussionist. Their next album, Thriller, was released in 1973.
You are the sunshine of my life.
Bit of a controversial cover of that one. The next album they released in 1974 was called Lydia, and I was certain I had that on my collection, but when I went to pull it, I couldn't find it. That's an album I see frequently at flea markets and vinyl shows. I'll definitely have to pick it up to complete the collection. The next one I have, Linda Pence and Cold Blood, 1976.
We're smoking, we're smoking, we're smoking, we're cold blood, we're smoking, we're cold blood, we ain't joking.
After this album, the band took a hiatus and they were off for quite a bit of time, but they have gotten back together under the name Linda Pence and Cold Blood, and they have released at least 3 albums. I have not heard those albums and not really seek them out. The next band from California is Sweetwater. The first album, this was released in 1968.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes
I would describe the music as sort of like psychedelic rock, psychedelic folk. With instruments like the flute and the cello, you get a pretty unique sound going there. This would be in my top 10 favorite albums in my collection, this particular one. This is a brilliant album. Sweetwater performed at Woodstock. They were the second act after Richie Havens. Unfortunately, the lead singer in Sweetwater here, Nancy Nevins, was involved in a very bad car accident, just shortly after this album was released. She sustained various serious injuries including injury to a vocal cord. Consequently, the group tried to press on with minimal input from her. They released a second album, Just For You, in 1970. In the first album, Nancy's vocal work is throughout the entire album on every track just about, whereas here I think 2, maybe 3 tracks at the most, and I believe that those tracks were recorded before the accident and were just used on the second album. The first album, to me, on some tracks brought to mind Jefferson Airplane with Grace Slick on vocal. Whereas when I started listening to the second album, like the first track on the first side, what came to mind actually was Santana, with a lot of percussion, with a sort of a Latin tone to it. Still a very good album, but different from the first one, and personally not as good as the first one for me. They put out one more album in 1971 called Melon. Once again, only maybe 2 or 3 tracks on here with vocals by Nancy, and again I suspect they were tracks that had been recorded before the accident. Again, not as good as the first album for sure, but still a fairly solid album. These albums are worth, the second and third album are worth picking up if you see them at vinyl shows or flea markets. But if you see that first album, I would definitely get it. It is a brilliant album. I think it's one of the best albums to come out in the 60s. This Nancy did recover enough that her and 2 other of the original members performed at Woodstock '94, and I think they went on to perform a few more concerts after that. So it's good to see that she did recover enough to be able to perform again. I don't know if they have put out any albums. I haven't tracked that down to see if there's anything new by them. As always, thank you for watching, and have a great day.